Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another Rugby World Cup warm-up match, as well as the first game of the Barbarians tour in 2023. This one's Samoa. They will be taking on the Barbars, and this could be a very exciting game to see whether or not Samoa can continue their momentum that they created throughout the Pacific Nations Cup. And of course, this is also a little bit of a trial run for some of these players for the Barbarians. If there's injuries for their respective countries, maybe they are the ones who do end up getting the call-up. But for the Barbarians, quite a bit of South African flair added for the starting side. But at number 1, Aki Seuli. Number 2, Joseph De Weber. The third choice Springbok hooker at the moment. So whether or not he gets added in if there's an injury for Malcolm Marx, Bongi Umbanambi, or perhaps Dion Forey does not play as that utility forward, then Joseph De Weber might be the man who makes his way in. Jeffrey Tuamanga Allen, he was actually selected in the initial Samoan squad, now finds himself missing out, but could still make his way to France. Jean-Luc Dupré at number 4, and Rene Aljihu at number 5, so the South African connection in the lock and duo. Dylan Richardson at 6, Jack Lamb number 7, another player who missed out on Samoan selection. It's quite interesting because any player who missed out on that Samoan squad now gets the chance to try and prove themselves against their Samoan teammates. Tim Nanai Williams, another good example. He is at number 15, and then it is going to be Mitch Eddy at number 8 to close out the Barbarians fullback. Herschel Yankees at number 9 with Antoine Frisch at 10, Curtis Rona and Virimi Vakatava as the midfield combo. So Vakatava, he retired from international duty. Straight away, he's back in the Barbars, which is something we have seen players do in the past. Alan Wynne-Jones, he has been a player who's done it a little bit in the past when he did end up retiring from Welsh rugby. Still had his game for the Barbars up against the World XV. Henry Spate out on the left wing. Toby Fricker out on the right. And Tim Nanai Williams slotting in as number 15 in the chat. We've already got Jennifer here. Welcome in. Hope you are doing well. Tauna Ufi. Hopefully I've said that correctly. And also, hi there, Hamish and rugby fans from Cape Town. And what venue is this game being held at? So it is being played, I believe, the home game or the home team that people know of would be Brief from the top 14. Hopefully I've said that correctly. But it's a tricky enough stadium name. That is one part of my game that I'm going to have to work on before we get to the World Cup, mainly because some of these pronunciations of the stadiums I'm a little bit rough with. Looking through at the Samoan starting lineup, a little bit similar to what we saw for the Pacific Nations Cup, with a few different players added in, a couple debuts along the way as well. Jordan Lay at number 1, Sailala Lamb at 2, was a man who was added into that Samoan side recently, and Michael Alatoa, he didn't get a huge amount of game time throughout the Pacific Nations Cup, now gets the opportunity here to show what he can do. Brian Alana-Usi at number 4 with Theo McFarland as 5, so the newer locking duo that they haven't used a huge amount throughout that Pacific Nations Cup. Stephen Luatua at number 6, Alama Namatanga at number 7, and then it will be the youngster Soatala Fa'asa'o to slot in. Close out the Samoan fullback. Malani Matavao gets his first start of 2023. We know that man from the 7 circuit. He's an absolute pocket rocker, and I believe that he could be one of the big keys here for the Samoans if they are to walk away with the victory. Lima Sopawanga, we saw him announced in that Rugby World Cup squad. We also saw him announced for the Pacific Nations Cup squad, but we haven't seen him play as of yet, so this is his official Samoan debut. And we'll certainly be looking forward to the challenge. Tamua Manu and Naria Famai are going to be the midfield combination. Ben Lamb on debut as well, out on the left wing. We've seen that man in the past for the Highlanders. We've seen him play for Bordeaux. He's a dangerous ball runner and has a lot of power, and that is exactly what he will use in this game. Nigel Awong at number 14, and Danny Tuala to close out the Samoan front row, or sorry, not the front row, their starting lineup. He is there at number 15. So looking through at the chat as well. Hamish, are you heading over to the World Cup? And WC World Cup, not the water closet. Says water fan or water sports fan, I am not heading to France for the World Cup, but we will be covering every single game on the channel. So be sure to stick around for that, as this match on TV on Sky Sports. I don't think it's on Sky Sport here in New Zealand. I'm watching it on TVNZ Plus, as they are the official fellas, for the Samoan games. Anyway, I'll just have a quick look and see if it's on Sky Sport in New Zealand. If it is, we're probably going to be spoiled in terms of what we can watch it on for New Zealand compared to anywhere else in the world. I believe there's not many options for this game. So, no, Sky Sports do not have this game. But TVNZ Plus do, for anyone who is in New Zealand. And nice to see Kiwi lads doing their stuff. Missed your face, been busy here, Samoa all the way. Sev's Roof. Yeah, it's an interesting game because not often, when we look at some of the games that the Barbarians have played in the past, not many of the teams that they play actually come in as favourites. Because normally they are used to playing those league sides. They are going to be facing the Northampton Saints in the near future, the Bristol Bears as well. And the Barbars are expected to win both of those games. Whereas this one up against the Samoans, with how Samoa played in that Pacific Nations Cup, no one is going to be at all surprised if we do see a Samoan victory here. And in fact, looking at their side, they should almost get themselves the win. Of course, a few good players in this Barbarian side. I'm actually looking through, and some of the good players are the Samoan guys who missed out on selection. Also, quite a few South African players in there. Joseph Dweba, his lineouts, as long as they go relatively straight, could be quite effective. Did I miss the lineout says username? You did, but we will be having them up as soon as the two sides make their way back out onto the field. So probably about maybe 3 or 4 minutes away. But yeah, quite a few Samoan players in the Barbarians. You haven't missed the benches though, and we will look through at them right now. Looking at who is off the bench: Andre Hugo Finta at number 16, Evans and Longwell, the other two in the front row replacements, Takori and Sakamoto, two other Japanese players who get themselves a little bit of a chance here. They haven't got as many Japanese players, I believe, as they would normally have in the Barbarians, but that may just be due to the other players being selected in the Japanese international side. Green, Williams and Hoyland, the three back replacements for Samoa: Latero Tole, James Lay and Paul Alo Amili. As a man who was captain at the start of the Pacific Nations Cup, hasn't really got that opportunity anymore, seeing as Michael Alatoa has returned. It's still a very good scrummager, and that is somewhere that Samoa will try and pride themselves in this game, is trying to get that push in the scrums. They're up against Sauli, Dweba and Tuamanga Allen, so quite a bit of Samoan contingency there. Chris Vui at number 19 and Jordan Taufua at 20. I'm looking forward to seeing him in action for the first time at international level for 2023. Eritara Eneri, Christian Leliafano and also Ed Fidel. So quite a strong bench for Samoa. Definitely more well-known players, I would say, to an extent, than the Barbarian side, or at least maybe for me, seeing as I do cover quite a bit of Samoan rugby, so they just seem that little bit more familiar. But I'm looking forward to seeing new combinations here for the Barbarians, as well as seeing what Samoa can do, building their momentum towards their Rugby World Cup. And they will be playing Ireland next week, which is not an easy contest. A lot of people know that Ireland are a top contender at the moment. So if Samoa can get away with a win here, build their momentum nicely towards that game, I'm sure they will be more than happy. We have got there, you're doing the Kiwis you're doing the Kiwis versus Toa Samoa. Kangaroos versus Samoa, says Ice Cartel. I might need reminded quickly when they are taking place, Ice Cartel. I know that Tonga versus England in the Rugby League World Cup is one game that I have seen is scheduled, but when are the other two? Do let me know. And good morning, Kiwi lads. Just opened my eyes there, Spider-Meek. Yeah, relatively early start here in New Zealand, 6:39 a.m. And the game going to be kicking off at only 6 minutes time. Samoa looking very strong up front. Barbarians will be up against it now. How long have they been practicing as a team before this match? Hamish says Ruth. I don't think the Barbarians have had, to be honest, a huge amount of game time or a huge amount of time to gel, because Tim Nanai-Williams, Jeffrey Tuamanga-Allen, Aki Saula and Jack Lamb have all actually been a part of the Samoan team for the Pacific Nations Cup. So maybe that is the reason that Tim Nanai-Williams did miss that last game, was because he had been selected for the Barbarians. But yeah, probably only a couple weeks. So it means that we're going to see a lot of unorthodox play from the Barbarians, which is normally what we do see. They just go out there, try a whole heap of random stuff, offloads, random passes, and see whether or not they work. Good morning, Kiwi lads. Oh no, I read that one, didn't I? I don't see the match on Supersport here in South Africa, says Timmy Smith, which is a bit of a shame because there are actually quite a few South African players in this matchup. Joseph Weber, Jean-Luc Dupre, Renier Hihu, also Herschel Yankees, going to be there as the number 9. Where is this game taking place? It is the home stadium of Brive, which I think I always mispronounce, but the French side from the top 14, and Marina Talofalova, Amish, the other man in regards to pronunciation, checking in from Istanbul, says Image. And is this match on TV? It is for us here in New Zealand on TVNZ Plus, and they might actually be the official broadcaster of this game, or at least they are in New Zealand. I know that Sky don't have it, so I'm not actually too sure where else this game is available. Normally the Barbarians, I'd like to think that some of their games will be streamed on YouTube this year, whether that is when they are playing the Northampton Saints, or whether that is when they are playing the Bristol Bears, just to give some people a bit more of a look at the Barbars. They're normally a side that, they attract quite a bit of attention, mainly because they are a dangerous team put up or made up of players from all around the world. They are just showing the two sides out on the field. So we will once again look throughout the starting lineups for the Barbarians. Aki Sauli at number 1, Joseph Weber 2, and Jeffrey Tuamanga Allen close out the front row. Jean-Luc Dupre alongside Reniel Hiku will be the 2 locks. Dylan Richardson, Jack Lamb, and also Mitch Eddy at number 8. Herschel Yankees and Anton Frisch, the 19 combination with Curtis Rona on his outside, and Varumi Vakatava, a man who has retired from international level, still is going to be playing here for the Barbarians, though. Henry Spate at number 11, Toby Fricker at number 14, and Tim Nanai Williams close out the whole side at number 15. So quite a few Samoan, quite a few South African players throughout that starting 15. For the Samoans, Jordan Lay, Say Lala Lamb, and Michael Alatoa. The front row, Brian Elena Usi and Theo McFarland. The locking duo, Stephen Luatua. He has been great for Samoa since making his way into the side. Had his debut earlier on in the Pacific Nations Cup and has not been disappointing one bit. Alamanda Matanga at number 7. Huge player and also has that physicality that can make him a real threat throughout this contest. And then it is going to be at number 8, Soatala Fa'aso to close out the fullback. Milani Matavao and Lima Sopawanga, a new combination, mainly because Sopawanga on debut. Milani Matavao from the Sevens, his first start of 2023. Tamua Manu and Naria Famai in the midfield. Ben Lamb out on the left, also going to be on debut. Nigel Wong at 14 and Danny Tawala close out this side at number 15. But we have currently got the Samoa national anthem. Samoa versus Australia is the 14th and 15th of October, and Kiwis versus Samoa October 21st and 22nd. Okay, so we will probably end up covering those ones, Ice Cartel, as long as they don't overlap with the Rugby World Cup, and even if they do, we may be able to make a couple adjustments so that we can end up covering them. But thank you for letting me know that those games are on. I'm going to put a little star next to your comment so that I can remember and put it into the schedule. And please give us the score prediction, Hamish. Thanks. Tries in the first half. I think we're going to see quite a few tries throughout this first 40 minutes, mainly because the Barbarians, they haven't been together for too long, which does mean maybe their discipline, or not their discipline, their defensive line might not quite be as strong as they'd like it to be. I believe that they will still have the ability to score tries against Samoa in this game. So score prediction, I'm thinking we're going to see both sides probably scoring 20 plus. I'm going to say Samoa win this game maybe about 33 points to 26, somewhere around there. And first half, I believe we're going to see 4 tries scored between the two sides. Cheers, mate, says Drippy. And yeah, I do appreciate you all being here for this nice early morning start in New Zealand, 6:45 a.m. for this contest. Hey, Hamish says, Flesh and welcome in, mate. Are you still in Spain out of curiosity, or have you made your way back to the UK? But Patrick Lamb going to be in charge of, I believe he's the, did he have a Barbarians kit on or a Samoan kit? I'm not too sure. It was kind of a mix of both, but Mike Adamson will be the man in charge of this one. Sadly, not a sellout for this matchup. Well, I'm sure quite a few people would have made their way down just to watch Varumi Vakatava in action. Now, we are having a little bit of something happening with the microphone at the ground. I was wondering whether or not there was like a heavy rain, but I think it is just the quality. Lima Sopawanga. Here we go. His first chance for the Samoans at international level. Are you doing the Irish match tomorrow? We certainly are. Ireland versus England going to be a very entertaining game. We've also got South Africa versus Wales taking place beforehand, and alongside that, Fiji versus France later on. But it's kicked off high by Sopawonga, knock on straight away from the Barbarians, although looks like it's actually going to be the penalty in favour of the Barbars due to a penalty for taking the man out in the air. Looks like Nigel Wong has stayed down though. That is not good news for the Samoans. Just got back after 3 weeks on the piss, says Flishin, so hopefully you are going to be recovered. And I guess, yeah, ready for Wales up against the South Africans. That's an ugly fall for Henry Spate, unfortunately, who did end up kind of bouncing around like he was a pinball. Nigel Wong, looks like he is going to be all right. And Tim Nanai Williams now will be kicking this ball towards the touchline. Barbarians 1973 got the achievement of the best try ever against the All Blacks. Will we see the Barbarians do the similar, says username? Probably not in this game. Mainly because I don't think they've quite got that same flair in the lineup as what they have had in past years. And to be honest, that is just due to the international schedule that we have got currently. It just means that there wasn't really the opportunity to put all of the top-notch players. And I think that the game that they played up against the World XV, they had more of those superstar players that can create their magic. These players, I feel, might play a bit more of a structured game. But Herschel Yankees going across now to Antoine Frisch. Curtis Rona hits it up. The Aussie, and the penalty does go the way of the Barbarians again, this time against Michael Alaratoa for not rolling away. I'll probably need to be drunk to watch that game, says Flishin. And what do you think of South Africa front row against, let's call a spade, minimum 5+ scrum penalties? The Box should have a good game. Says Rooster, I mean, they've gone with a strong front row for the Springboks, which I feel like is exactly what they needed to do for this game, even though they would have liked to maybe give a couple other players the chance in this game, because I know that that was mentioned about quite a bit in terms of trying to rotate the squad, give everyone the chance, but they need to be strong up front. Same against New Zealand. They will go with probably a similar front row because they've got that week off afterwards, which means that they can recover those guys and be ready to go for their first game up against Scotland, who are playing some pretty decent rugby at the moment. They've got a warm-up game next week also, nicely overthrown by Joseph Weber. Unfortunately, that was a trend throughout his URC, and the space opens up now for Samoa. Ball on the outside. Naria for Ma'i had men on the left and the right, but instead does decide to hit the ball up, and Henry Spate able to drag him down. Now the advantage in favour of the Samoans. They're 40 metres out here with the penalty. It's probably within kicking distance if they want it, but up against the Barbars, normally you would go with a little bit more of that unorthodox play. Does anyone know what channel the game is on, says Connor? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be on too many channels. I'll quickly have a look, see if I've got a broadcasters list somewhere. But I believe, from what I know, TVNZ Plus is the best option for us here in New Zealand. Broadcasters is actually Flow Sports is listed. So anyone who does have Flow Rugby, Flow Sport, that is your option. You like Colby on the left wing? It was probably the biggest surprise of their lineup. I guess alongside Khaleesi's return, but people were expecting that, seeing as had been rumoured. But it just shows at the moment that they are struggling a little bit with the amount of wingers that they've got, alongside the fact that they'll probably put Grant Williams maybe up to that right wing side if they need to near the end of the game, or they might look for some sort of switch in their backline. Lima Sopawanga taking on the kick. It's gone straight down the middle, and that will now make the score 3-0 in favour of the Samoans after 4 minutes. Now, the scoreboard is still asleep, unlike myself. It's 6:50 a.m. So hopefully it wakes up by the time it's 7, and it will update the score in a very short moment. Which Barbarian side with the best ever? Which year? Strongest players in your opinion, Amish, says Roof. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because they do change their side so much, so no one really gets that consistent run for the Barbars to a certain extent. Like, I was looking through, my thumbnail actually has Quay Cooper, and that's because none of these players for the Barbarians have ever played for the Barbarians before, or at least haven't in a very long time. So you made it tricky to try and find thumbnail potential in this one. And we have got their wise Jack Lamb and Tim Nano Williams playing for the Barbarians. Main reason they missed out on the Samoan World Cup squad. That's going to be a penalty this time to the Barbarians. Side entry from Samoa. And the Barbarians, they don't normally take on three-pointers, and I don't see this game being any different. Tim Nanai Williams now to kick it for the corner. But yeah, it's a good opportunity for those guys like Tim Nanai Williams, Jack Lamb, Tuamunga Allen to still get game time. And then if there's any sort of injury, they are still match fit and ready to go by the time they make it to that Rugby World Cup. So I can understand why they are playing for the Barbars. Same with the South African players. They're the ones who are injury cover. So they're trying to keep them fresh and keep them going very well. It's going to be slapped back nicely by the Barbarians. Loose ball. Joseph Dwebe has to run back and now tries to bulldoze his way forward. Stephen Luatua able to take him down quite nicely. Now a step here off the back for the youngster Michidi, I was going to say. Big run from Jack Lamb. Looks weird. Him playing up against the side. Will Dweber get into the 33? I don't believe so unless there is an injury for Umbanambi or Marks. Because they've still got Dion Fori as another option at hooker. Worst comes to worst. And I believe with the amount of halfbacks and with the amount of, I guess, wingers that they want to have, they just can't really afford to take him, unfortunately. Now nice work from the Barbarians. Kicked high and behind from Herschel. Yankees looking for the touchline, and it does go out. Now it is going to be the Samoan line out, about 15 metres out from their try line. Up the bars, says Obi. Let's go, Nate. Samoa all the way. And also Samoa going to smash them in those tackles, says Ruth. And also, I saw a little bit earlier on, we got Blues Nate in the chat. He said, let's go Kiwi lads. Morning, Amish. Let's go the Manu. And also with the amount of injuries in top-tier teams, I don't see the sense behind the last two games for the Box. What's your thoughts? Imagine we lose another fly half or centre, says Hendrick. It's a perfect point to be made because I've talked about it the whole way through. Every game at the moment for international sides, they are losing at least one player. We saw it for Wales, where they did end up losing Dewey Lake. We saw it for France, where they lost Romain Internac. That is a massive player to lose just before a Rugby World Cup. England almost lost Owen Farrell for a different reason, but Jack Van Porfleet, the player who will be missing the World Cup now. So every side is losing a player every game at the moment. So the big question is, who's it going to be today for the South Africans if the trend continues? Another penalty to the Barbarians, just losing the footing and the breakdown for Fasa'o. Now they will be putting this one into touch. Didn't England kick 3-pointers against the Barbarians last time, says username? More than likely, and I believe that is mainly because of the plan that the game or the team go into this game with, which is they don't want to fall into the style of the Barbarians to a certain extent. We saw the World XV did, because at the end of the day, they were there to try and make it an awesome game. This one, Samoa are looking at as a chance to win, and they will want to try and get themselves that momentum going forward. It's a lottery, but we need these games, says Fleshin. Game not live here in South Africa, says Rooster. Yeah, it seems like Flow Sports is the best option for anyone outside of New Zealand, where it is TVNZ+. Joseph Dweber line out thrown nicely, slapped back by Reni Alhehu. Now Yankees looking to use this one to the right-hand side. Not a lot of space on that short side with the Samoan defence, and a little bit of a counter ruck as well, and they win the penalty. Malani Matavao able to get over the ball. Jean-Luc Duprea lost his footing. That's Elton, not Herschel, says Hendrick, and wrong Yankees, says Timmy Smith. And there as well, and also Farrell should have been banned for 8 weeks, says Obi. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with his hearing, mainly because I don't think there's been a hearing per se in the last little while that's actually taken as much attention as Owen Farrell's one has, mainly because people are so confused at how it got taken away when he's a repeat infringer, and yeah, he's done it before. I think it's guaranteed he's going to do it again, but they just decided, we'll let it slide. It's almost the World Cup. We've got to give the guy a break. Thrown by Samoa now. Short ball to Ben Lamb. First carry for him. An international level for the Samoans. 10 metres out from the line. Malani Matavao off to the right here. Good low tackle made around the ankles of Fasa'o. Now Matavao with the flat ball off to Stephen Luatua. Good defence so far from the Barbarians. Rushing up to be able to cut it off. Joseph Dweber. Good low tackle made alongside South African teammate. Now Michael Alatoa, ball slips through his hand, so it gets a little bit sloppier for the Samoans, but they do still have possession. 10 minutes into this contest and still with that 3-point lead. Good driving tackle. Moves them backwards. Nice bit of work in the breakdown there from Mitch Eadie, and it is going to be bouncing out for the Barbars until the ball is taken back by Samoa, and they will look to use their backline now off to the right. Alamana Matunga goes across now to Theo McFarland. It's been good defence from the Barbars, though. They aren't allowing that easy gap to form. We thought maybe they would with the fact that they've only been together for a little bit of time now. Nice run from Danny Tuala, finds the offload away to Nigel Wong. Close to the touchline, finds the pass back in. Now flat ball off to Jordan Lay. Still 10 metres from the line, up to maybe about 10 phases or so now here for Manu Samoa. Quick hands, Theo McFarland. 5 metres out, gets back up to his feet after being tackled by Spate. But it's dragged down for a second time. Alamana Matunga once again creeps that a little bit closer to the try line. Selling a dummy from Matavao. Almost got through, but Dweber able to make that tackle. Now we're up to about 15 phases. Good pressure in the breakdown from the Barbarians. Almost ended up being a turnover, but Samoa now do manage to get the ball back. Looks like it's going to be now Alamana Matunga again. 3 metres out. Stephen Luatua. Great low tackle made on him. But I believe that would have been Jack Lamb, his teammate. That is closer for the Samoans. Only an inch out from the try line now. Looking for the pick and go. Michael Alatoa looks like they're going to shift this one. Wide cut out pass, but it's dropped on the wing by Ben Lamb. And the Barbars, they managed to survive the onslaught. Brilliant defensive work. Ben Lamb waiting for that ball out on the wing. It goes straight through his hands. Dirtiest player Obi has no care. Other players welfare, says Obi. And tomorrow is the Jones versus the Bok Oosh. And also Wales come on. And Hamish, or how's it Hamish early morning stream for you? It is indeed. I'll be honest, this weekend I feel like there's a good chance I'll end up with jet lag with the timing of some of these streams. We've got this game, the next game that we're covering on the channel. We're starting at about 1:30 a.m. New Zealand time. We did sleep earlier last night to be able to wake up for this game, but I think I'm going to be going to bed at maybe around 4 p.m. New Zealand time today. Maybe a little bit later, maybe 5 or 6, but yeah, it's going to be a really weird weekend of streaming. Then from that 1:30 a.m. we go right through to 9 a.m. Then filming a podcast and then going on the road because me and George are heading a little bit away for Sunday. So yeah, sleep is going to be weird to say the least. I think it gave him 4 weeks, or I think if they gave him 4 weeks ban, no one would have cared because some idiot said, no problem, mate, you're free to go. But everyone else will be punished, says Rooster. Yeah, that is the big problem, is the fact that they've been like, yes, you've tried to take a guy's head off a little bit, but it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, Owen Farrell. We'll keep you around for a bit longer. And, I think it's all because of that World Cup being just around the corner. England don't want to lose them, and somehow they might not, but I feel like World Rugby needs to step in because the last thing you want before a Rugby World Cup is controversy, and that is exactly what they've now got. People already think that there's some corruption going on. That doesn't help. Now, kick downfield from Herschel Yankees. They were deep inside of their own 22, so not a lot of space to work with. So does kick it into touch, 25 metres out now for the line out. Samoa, get those bodies moving over the try line. Hamish looking very good in the colour hoodie with his super mustache, says Roof there. At the moment, it's quite funny. I feel like this hoodie is one of the only ones you guys have been seeing. Not because it's the only hoodie I have, just because I seem to be wearing different hoodies in the week, and then every time it gets to Saturday and Sunday, it seems to always be the Puma one. Although I do have 2 of these, so that might be why. As well, nicely taken by Stephen Luatua. Line out time here for Samoa, managing to move that ball back to Alamana Matunga at the back. Now Malani Matavao, he hasn't got the headgear on at the moment. I believe it got popped off a little bit sooner on in the contest. Good run from Tamua Manu, but even better tackle made by Anton Frisch. Now Malani Matavao, going back across. I like the grey, white and black hoodie. It looked good on you, says Coding. I think that one's actually in my golf bag at the moment. I think I left it in there. Hamish, are you doing Movember this year, says Russo? I normally end up with some sort of mo going throughout Movember. I think I'm not sure if we did it last year or whether we just had a mustache throughout November. It's crazy how close November is, though, with the fact that it's only been, like, the fact that we're 9 months since the last November, in fact, maybe even closer to 10 months now, is weird. I don't know where this year's gone. And what channel in the UK can we watch? I believe Flow Rugby is your only option in the UK, sadly, which seems like a shame, definitely because there are a few players from the UK in this Barbars side. You're going to watch all the games of the Rugby World Cup or just the top nation teams? Not getting up at like 1 a.m, that's for sure, says Max Cotter. So we are not just going to be watching them, we are going to be covering them on the channel every single game, which is going to be a lot of fun. Even though there's going to be a lot of sleepless nights, should be worth it in the end getting to witness all those late night games. And Rooster, exactly, even 3 weeks. It's how the England propaganda machine is stepping in and defending him up here. Yeah, I think the big problem for them is the other suspensions that we've seen around the world where players are getting 3 weeks for things that are smaller than that. And then Owen Farrell's happened and everyone's like, yeah, but we'll just take it away. And the problem is he's a repeat infringer. It's not like it's the first time he's tried to shoulder charge someone. That's a nice run from Samoa. Ben Lamb, 10 metres out from the line, already losing my voice. It's only Saturday morning, but the penalty goes the way of the Barbarians. Life travels so fast 1 year, it feels nothing in terms of time. Super Rugby draws have been already announced, says Max. They certainly have. I'm hoping not too many of the games will overlap with cricket season this year, although I don't think, to be honest, that will be the case. I think there will be a few games that are a little bit similar. As the top 14 starting today, no top 14 games shown in South Africa, says Rooster. I do see that Toulouse are taking on, who were they playing? They might have been playing Bayern, maybe, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I think the top 14's fired up. The top D2 has also started. It's a fantastic run from Ben Lamb, breaking through a couple tackles. Herschel Yankees was in school same time as me. He was 2 years below me, friends with my sister, funny enough, says Timmy Smith. It's actually quite interesting the amount of little ties that people have with certain players. I know that in New Zealand-wise, like certain players, some viewers have gone to high school with them or gone to university with them. We're in the same team as them as well. Did you hear about Shannon Frizzell done his hamstring, I think, says Max? I have not. Not at this stage anyway, but I'm sure I'll hear a little bit more about it when we do our All Black squad announcement or our squad prediction for their game up against the South Africans. Nice cut-out pass, but it is dropped again for Samoa. Looking a little bit sloppy throughout the first 20 minutes of this game. And we have got there Hamish's Foxy, loves energy and excellent commentary, says Ruth. And also the fact it was 3 Aussies fooled by the RFU's solicitor is amazing. I thought they would bury him, says Fleshin. Yeah, it's got a very weird feel about it, doesn't it? It doesn't seem like something that you'd expect to happen just before a World Cup. Like, I feel like, this is bad to say, but there's got to have been some sort of something thrown across the table, Because you don't just have a player who gets a red card, definitely because it got upgraded to a red. So straight away with the fact that they were like, nah, it wasn't actually a red, straight away that's thrown that system out the window, because it's going to be, well, what's the point of upgrading it to a red if after the game they're just going to say, sorry, we made a mistake because he didn't shoulder charge him to the head, even though he did. Doing New Zealand schools and colleges, rugby is a must for students to play? Not really, no. I feel like it's quite popular in some regions of the country, but overall, a couple other sports are making their way up a bit more. We must have grown a bit lately, so that is why we are sitting with a few more basketballers around. Mitigating circumstances, says Crumpus. I mean, the mitigation, though, compared to some of the other ones that we've seen, were not that prominent, Like, he still went into the shoulder, or went into his tackle like this. So there was no way he was wrapping his arms, is the first thing to look at. The body control of Owen Farrell. Either that man doesn't know where his shoulders are, or they're too heavy to not lead with. And in that case, you've got a problem in your own right. There's going to be another penalty going the way of Samoa, this time 5 metres out from the line. The Barbarians have been able to defend very well here. They haven't allowed Samoa to get that early try. I see Jordan Lay has now been cut open above that right-hand eyebrow, so he might need a little bit of medical attention. Is New Zealand left to Europe? Still in New Zealand, says Rooster. I think that they're leaving soon. In fact, no, they might have already left. Actually, now that I think about it, he didn't expect George to push him towards him, says Crumpus, although he was still in a position where he was going to be the next man to make the tackle. So, like, even if you're not expecting to completely make a tackle, you don't turn around like that to get ready for it, you know? You got to make sure you still got those arms wrapping, and that's unfortunately the problem with Owen Farrell, and the problem for him for a long time is the fact that he likes to lead with that shoulder. And the thing is, if he tackled straight on and he wrapped his arms, it would have been no problem. That is going to be a great pick and go there from Samoa, and I believe that it is Soa Talafasa'o who has got himself over the try line 20 minutes in. The dynamic changed too quickly to adjust, says Crumpus. Still can't shoulder a player in the head. Even if there is that mitigation, you still can't afford to be caught in that position. That's the big difference. If he had done it and he had more time, they would have been like, yep, red card 100%. Because he still got into position to do it, and the fact that the player bounced in the right direction doesn't mean that he didn't duck either. Like, he didn't crouch down, other than maybe like an inch. So, you know, it's a tricky one. Accidental, not intentional equals yellow, says Crumpus. Although you got to remember as well, for Owen Farrell, he's done that 15 times throughout his career. At what stage does accidental get taken out of the window? Mainly because he has done it so much. You know, people might say, oops, I accidentally put a Kit Kat in my pocket, and so I've robbed a store. But if you do it 15 times, then everyone's like, you're just stealing, mate. They say in the Australian assistant coach quit for family reasons. I doubt it, says Timmy Smith. And also we have got their username, I just read that, says Obi. Yeah, I did see that. Family circumstances. So hopefully everything is all right there. Lema Supawonga just away to the sighting line, bash him up for that. He was going shoulder chest up. He can't tackle to save his life. Says Flesh in there. Yeah. And that's the thing. Because in the past he has done that so much, you start to lose a little bit of sympathy for the guy. Like, he's a great player, but, you know, he's got to learn how to not go for the head. That's the main thing. A little bit more ducking would have been perfectly fine. But like I said, it's pretty much straight away taken away the authority of a red card or a yellow card getting upgraded. And saying somebody is intentionally trying to hurt people is slander, says Crumpus. I mean, you're probably the king of slander on this channel from the chat, Crumpus, so I feel like you probably know a thing or two about it. But saying that a player was not trying to hurt someone when they lead like this part doesn't work the same as wrapping an arm. You ever tried to give a hug with a shoulder? It doesn't work, mainly because you probably knocked the other person out. And, you know, it's been a clear thing in Owen Farrell's career, unfortunately, is the fact that he's trying to take people's heads off. And Oof says, Timmy Smith, why top team always pull with low teams? It's normally due to how early the draw is done, but then also, I guess it's just the fact that because it's a bigger competition with 20 sides, you're not always going to have top-class teams versus top-class teams every single week. You look fantastic even from the side average. Good profile, says Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. And now, Herschel Yankees feeding the ball in for the Barbarians. Currently 8-0 in favour of Samoa, although the scoreboard does not want to admit it. It's going to be a loose ball. The Barbars managing to clean it up. Out on the right wing was Toby Fricker, driven down in the turf and stolen in the breakdown from the Samoans, but it was illegal. So now the Barbarians do end up with another one. Owen Farrell knows what he's doing. I remember he put a hit in on Andre Estes and at Twickenham, says Timmy Smith. And yeah, it's an unfortunate scenario to have because, you know, he's one of the key players for England. It's similar to the Johnny Sexton scenario in a way. How it just doesn't seem like, for such an experienced player, it's a really bad time to do it because you could miss some of the World Cup, which I feel like is something you certainly cannot afford to have. Definitely not when you're supposed to be that fly half and kind of the stability in the backs. Crumpus says dirty like your undies, says Obi there. Well, you're not allowed to say that, Obi. That's considered slander. Crumpus will tell you that. But now Dweber to be throwing this ball in with the line out. Listen, Owen Farrell is just one tough dude. I don't mess with him, Says Roof. Big run from Joseph Dweber. He's been dropped by Alamundo Matonga. They might have to check to see whether or not he actually wrapped his arms in that challenge. They banned George Moala for 5 games. Why not Owen? Says Spider Mick. Yeah, we've also seen Peter Labaskakni get a red card for a similar thing to Farrell. He's got a 3-week ban. And Labaskakni tackles and Farrell. Says Blues Nate. Now, going to the left-hand side. Low tackle made there from Nigel Awong. Looking to use the short side. Now Herschel Yankees almost stripped away. And in fact, it is Samoa managed to take that ball back. Danny Tawala looking to run it forward now. Sitting about 20 metres out from his own try line. This has been a very even game so far between the two sides. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Barbarians can get themselves a try before halftime. Definitely because of that knock-on that has just come from Samoa inside of their own territory. We have got their biased, says Spider Mick. And the RFU propaganda machine keeps saying he's a lonely guy. Or sorry, he's a lovely guy. But I've never seen that in any interview with him, let alone his play. Says Fleshin. And lucky for Labaskakni, misses out for Japan. Farrell thumbs up. Says Blues Nat and go the Manu. Says Manu Dollar there. Should mention it's early morning in Samoa, if I'm not wrong. I think it's actually 8:12 a.m. So a little bit later than us here in New Zealand, but still a very early morning start for you guys. So I hugely appreciate anyone tuning in from Samoa. Also all around the world, of course, it's going to be a later night game for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere. And also biased, says Spider Mech. Yeah, it's something that's been talked about quite a bit is consistency across the board from the refereeing, from the, the decision-making in terms of suspensions. And I think it's going to be something that does hurt rugby in the long run if they can't decide what is illegal, what is legal. Because the thing is, sometimes the referees, they do make the mistakes. But the fact that they're pretty much straight away saying that our system of being able to upgrade a card is completely faltered and don't believe the red card because it might get taken away after, it makes it very tricky for people to know what's actually going to be penalised as what. I'm munching cheese and onion crisp with Cadbury whole nut chocolate. Oosh, tastes good, says Roof. But it's kicked for the corner again for the Barbarians. I believe this time the penalty going against Stephen Luatua for losing his footing. Joseph Dweber now throwing the ball in nicely, taken at the back by the Barbarians. It's gone down 3 metres out from the line here. Mike Adamson looking for the penalty. Is he going to give it? No, in the end, that ball has become a little bit stuck in there for the Barbarians. They managed to flick it back out the back now. Herschel Yankees round the side. Just going to be held up. It's a knock-on against the Samoans and now clearing their lines. Kick downfield, going towards the touchline. No option for Henry Spate, but to just catch that one and go. And to touch, the review found mitigating circumstances were responsible, says Krampus. Which is concerning in its own right because we have seen players get red cards and suspensions for that exact same tackle, if not less. In terms of that Labaskakni one up against, I think it was in the game up against Fiji, was it, that they ended up getting the red card for Labaskakni. Now he will be missing the start of that Rugby World Cup. And let's go, says Enzo there, and the whole nut says, I assume it's a walnut maybe? Oh no, maybe a whole nut, maybe it's just a whole heap of nuts in there. And you need Buckiest both to stop Owen, says Roof. The thing is though, we know if the circumstances were reversed and Owen Farrell was the man who got that same tackle made on him, the people who are saying Owen Farrell shouldn't have been given the red card are the same people who would be asking for the player who tackled Farrell to get suspended for a long time. And that's the big difference. I guess depending on how you're looking at the scenario depends on exactly how you feel it should have been done. It's like when a team gets penalised and they're always like, oh, I feel like it should have been the other way around or something like that. Whereas if it was the other team doing it, then they're like, that's a penalty every day of the week. It all comes down to, I guess, how you or who you like in the game and also, I guess, who your alliance or allegiance is with. Obi Whole Nut. It's whole hazelnuts and milk chocolate delicious, says Ruth. Now 30 minutes into this game, slowed down a little bit. Now the line out for Say La La Lamb. Currently still 8-0 for the Samoans. Thrown in nicely, taken at the front. Back across here. Flat ball. Nah, I like the pros, or I let the pros decide. Well, then, in that case, like, what do you say about the referee or the TMO who upgraded it to a red? Are you saying that he shouldn't be allowed to do that anymore? Because now, according to those, I think it was the board of 3 or whatever it was, they feel now that TMOs aren't reliable. So it's an interesting one. If there was as much mitigation for Farrell, why is World Rugby appealing it, says username? Also a very good point. Like, the fact that it's caused such an uproar normally would mean that there's something a little bit wrong in the scenario, because it got dismissed so quick, didn't it? It was pretty much the next day they were like, nah, he's all good. Keep him going. Should be 6 weeks. He has a history and can't be overlooked. The World Rugby ban this year should not feed into it. It's foul play and done, says Hensel. Yeah, I feel like outside of a World Cup year, it probably would have been still given as a suspension. The review found mitigating circumstances with the benefit of the review, says Krampus. Well, the good news is they are re-reviewing it to make sure that that has not had a problem in the system. Maybe the English team should have actual training session just focused on hugging technique to help Farrell out. Better still, Farrell should lead it as part of his captaincy training, or his captain's training sessions, says Justin Charles. Well, the thing that hurts him still, I feel, is the fact that he hasn't gone like that. He's gone like that. You have to make sure, even if you're not expecting to make a tackle, you can't go around having that shoulder front facing, because you're just asking for people to go, well, he's done it again, because he's done it so many times. Evening, Aaron, says Josh Pike. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing very well. I saw your comment. I wasn't able to reply to it, unfortunately, but we have been talking about the Owen Farrell scenario. Krampus feels that it was a bit rough that he did end up getting the red card. Everyone else has pretty much said it was deserved. Will the appeal be appealed? And then that appeal be appealed, says Krampus. Well, it's up to England, really, because if they keep on appealing it, that's more games that he's going to be missing, isn't it? Because we saw how long the Johnny Sexton appeal took. He missed half a season almost by the time they worked it out. So if England are willing to keep on appealing it, even though it will mean that it eats into game time for Owen Farrell, more game time than a suspension would have, I'm sure people would be more than happy to see that happen. Where is this game? It is being played in France, which is interesting. One of the Barbarians games with only one French player, I believe, or maybe, no, it might be a couple more, actually, about 3 or so. That's just ridiculous. Come on now, Krampus. Says username in evening, Hamish, listening from Muscat. Says Joss there. Yes, they found it, but it was the wrong decision. The governing board of the sport finds the decision was incorrect. Says username. The decision was made. Why not accept it to move on? Because it was the wrong decision. And I feel like if people just sat there and allowed wrong decisions all the time in rugby, that is the thing that kind of kills the game, because people go, well, what's the point of watching if we know that certain players have the ability to get out of things scot-free, or scot-free, I should say, rather than scot-3, the number. Now, Barbarians, again, going to be on, according to the pros, says Krampus. Although it seems to be a small majority of pros. And just because they've got pro next to their name doesn't necessarily mean they're right. And that is one of the problems, like professional referee. How many times do people argue with them and say that they're wrong? Perfect example. Now backline for the Samoans, Naria Famai going across to the right-hand side. And well, rugby aren't pros. Isn't it? Very good point. Now off to the left. Forwards now trying to bump their way forward. It's been a very test match feel of a game between these two teams. Another penalty goes the way of Samoa, this time not rolling away. Penalty against Reniel Hehu. Go read Nigel Owen's article that came out yesterday, I believe. Says Hensel. Compare this to the Tongan. One gets yellow, another gets 10 weeks. Inconsistent, says Joss Pike. Exactly right. Pieter Labaskakni, he's going to be missing a couple more games for Japan due to his yellow card. That was very similar. We have got that panel was selected and they made a decision. Respect it. Well, I think that panel might need a couple new people on it. I'm surprised that you feel so strongly of it, Krampus, because normally you're the one who is complaining about other decisions being made on past weeks. So it's nice to see that you found one that you agree with rather than one that you disagree with like normal. Now Mike Adamson given the penalty that time against Reniel Hehu. Now about 30 metres out from the line, say La La Lamb. It looks like actually that Hastoy is now making his way onto the field. Is that Hastoy? No, Damien Hoyland. So I'm not sure what's happened there, whether or not there is an injury. And we have got there that farcical decision did the impossible and united most of the world's rugby fans in disgust. Says Fleshin. Yeah, that's very hard to do, isn't it? Definitely this close to a Rugby World Cup. Maybe we should be thanking Owen Farrell. That's what Crumpus wants to hear. Thanking him for uniting the rugby world and having everyone want to see him not do so great at the World Cup. This panel could come back and say something like ban him for 1 year. Would you agree with it? And then because they're selected pros, says username. It's like a debate, isn't it, at the moment? Now, nice pass from Matavao. Goes off in the rear for Mai. Just a little bit too low there. And note because they have been influenced by BS, says Crumpus. So just passing over what I said about you in past weeks, I guess. Now, nice short pass after Michael Araratoa. Now, Lema Supawanga. We haven't seen a huge amount of him throughout his Samoan debut. Kicked him behind this time. It was actually Alamana Mutunga going for the kick and behind, but it does go into touch about 15, actually probably about 10 metres out from the line for the Barbarians now. 36 minutes and 8-0. It certainly hasn't been that same kind of Barbarians game that we have seen in past years. It's a red. I don't know how it's even a question, says Hensel. We have got their Farrell was overrated. What's so special about him? I should give Moala the result, to be fair. I see it as... I don't know whether or not race comes into it. To be honest, I think it's more what country he's playing for, if that was any part of it. But, like, yeah, it's certainly not a good look for them just before a Rugby World Cup, with the fact that everyone's talking about that rather than the fact that this is going to be one of the closest World Cups we have seen in a long time. Now, Hoyland, only just making his way onto the field. Would England be better with Ford, though? To be honest, George Ford, not a bad player. So, who knows, maybe. They might give him a bit more of a crack. Marcus Smith, he's kind of gone down the rankings quite a bit lately, hasn't he? If he starts tackling like Farrell, he might get more game time. So I'll see it as aggressive and good for the sport. 2.5 minutes remaining in this first half. And Butch James is like Owen Farrell. They're in that upper hardcore category. Raw, smackdown, shakedown, rattle, and hum. Says Roof. And I still remember when he had that smirk smile during the haka. I'm definitely biased. Says Obi. Although I don't think you can bring that side of things into it overall. Like, it should be based on the overall situation rather than if you like him or don't like him. Because that's the thing. Like, I think Owen Farrell, he's a solid player. And, like, he adds so much for England's backline, which is why I was so surprised that he would try and make a tackle like that just before a World Cup, because we are seeing players pick up suspensions and we are seeing players get injured, unfortunately, just before a World Cup does come around. That was nicely thrown in by Joseph De Weber. Now short ball again. Fakatava with his nice crash forward. The Barbarians looking for some points before the end of the half. Now Herschel Yankees. Nicely done, offload up from, I think it was actually Tim Nanai Williams, although over the ball now, Samoa. They've been penalised. Michael Alatoa there, quick tap taken by Damien Hoyland. He's trying to speed up this game a little bit more, getting the Barbarians on the front foot. 30 metres out from the line now. Jack Lamb carries it towards the Samoan brothers. Now Fricker moves up to 22 metres out. And another penalty goes against Samoa. And this is a double blow of the whistle. And this might be the last warning now for Samoa. The discipline has been letting them down throughout this first 40 minutes. Cannot afford to do that throughout their first game of the Rugby World Cup. They've got some tough opposition in their group. England, Argentina, Japan and Chile. The 4 teams taking part in Pool D alongside the Samoans. They've actually changed the clock. They've actually gone back now with 3.5 minutes remaining in the half. I should mention as well. We have got there, why are the rules? Why are the rules there for, Hammy? For the sake of it, says Spider-Mech. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The comment about it being like it was a decision made by pros, so we should accept it. Like, the referees are professionals. So surely if they've made a decision, that should also be accepted. So it's a weird scenario, isn't it? I'm curious to see where it goes from here. And I think a lot of people around the world are as well, whether or not it's going to be a scenario that causes a lot of problems in the future of rugby. We do just have to wait and see. Nice big run from Jean-Luc Dupré. He's over the try line. Although the ball is not in his hands anymore, it might be knocked on. He's claiming the try. He wants to get it checked by the sounds of it. He's begging the referee to have a look. But Jean-Luc Dupré, I think he was turning. Mitigating circumstances were released after a review. Officials in TMO, they have a short time to decide, says Krampus. Although they had about 6 minutes, didn't they, in terms of decision-making during the game, which is actually, that's a relatively long time in the world of rugby. And that's why they brought in that rule, to be able to then see whether or not cards do need to be upgraded. We've seen it used with no problem at all in other competitions around the world, and that's why they decided to trial it for this World Cup. So the BBC are saying the next hearing is Tuesday, 22nd of August. That's stolen again by Samoa. Glam looked like he was a little bit wobbly for a second. They took over 7 minutes, says Yenzel, and they didn't notice the mitigation. Says Krampus, brilliant kick from Samoa. That will be the 50-22. It's nicely kicked downfield. Samoa building their pressure. They're just showing the Jean-Luc Dupré. Yeah, it's a try. That's crazy that Mike Adamson didn't actually look at that one, because it was a clear try scored by Jean-Luc Dupré. That's why he was pretty much pleading with the referee to go upstairs and have a look at it. The Barbarians, they could have been sitting 7 points to 8 at the moment in this contest. Now 1 minute remaining in the half. Say Lala Lamb to throw the ball in. It's going to be slapped back onto the side of the Barbarians. Krampus is on a wind-up. Yeah, well, the problem is I don't know if he's being serious or not, because in past weeks he has done the exact same thing with decisions that have been clearly wrong. So it's a bit of a plot twist if he is actually being serious for once rather than trolling, if that makes sense. Because we have had past games where he's gone with the most outlandish stuff just to see if he can wind people up. And now it's I don't know if that's the case for this one or whether he's actually serious with his meaning behind it. Slam it down. Says Blues. No, yeah, big try scored for Jean-Luc Dupré. The worst thing about it for him is probably, if he had scored that one, they would have looked at that one, I just tell the truth. But like I mentioned on past live streams, you have just done things to troll. So it doesn't really work the same. I don't care enough about Farrell to be bothered, says Gareth. What about the Sexton ban? There was mitigation there. The ref pissed him off. See, just as ridiculous, says username. Yeah, maybe the ref said something to him that he didn't quite like. Last chance of the half, though, for the Samoans. Malani Mataval to be feeding this ball in. Nice scrum advantage now in favour of Manu Samoa. Lema Sopawanga skipped pass over the top of him. Henry Spake tried to find the offload. Another penalty. Whenever somebody tells the truth, they get slandered as a troll, says Krampus. No, but in past live streams, we literally have the chat replays of past live streams. You've had the randomest stuff that has been so far from true that you've just been I'll say this for the sake of seeing if people will get a reaction from it, or if I can get a reaction from it. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You've done so many of the ones how you've been crying wolf, and now that you actually might be serious, people are nah, he's just crying wolf again. Looks like Lema Sopawanga going to be going for the touchline. That's not true. Show me, says Krampus. I can't be bothered. Feel like it's not really worth it, is it? I got too good of a memory, though. That kick has gone over, and that is now going to make the score 11 points to 0 going into the second half. Keep telling your truth, mate, says Hensel. And Krampus on Planus Krampus got it, says Spider Mick. Hello, Gareth Ferguson, sir. I can't be bothered, says Krampus. And there as well, Lema Sopawanga. He's kicked 2 from 2. Weak, says Krampus. About as weak as your argument. And Oni has it, mate. Or Obi has it, mate, says Gareth. And we have got there Amish who's going to win the Bok Wales game, says Roof. Well, it's an interesting one because South Africa have gone with a relatively strong looking lineup. So with it being played at the Principality, it's a little bit more even. Weakling, says Crumpus. Now, Crumpus, that's slander. You got to be careful doing that, or else that will get you in trouble. You'll get a Crumpus who starts trolling you and gets angry at you. So you can't have that. Got to make sure it's not slanderous. We only had one try in this first half, which is quite surprising. Unfortunately, and Gareth O'Gareth, hello from Cape Town, Kiwi Lads rocks forever. Sue me, says Crumpus. That's what Owen Farrell said, wasn't it? That's how he got off. I think Box will take it, but I think it will be close. Yeah, I think the Springboks last year in their Welsh game, I don't think they quite played as well as they would have liked to. This year, I think we're going to see a lot more Wales have another changed team, says Fletcher, and that might be somewhere that South Africa can benefit, is the fact that Wales are making quite a few changes once again. I just read usernames one. Hello from Peter Maritzburg. And then Williams got the wrong jersey on. Sole Blues jersey use. Says Blues. Now, yeah, there's quite a few Samoan players in here. Jeffrey Tuamunga Allen alongside Jack Lamb. Also in there, Tim Nanai Williams and I think Aki Sauli in there as well. We have got there, considering the confusion around rugby rules and officiating at the moment, the new appeal will probably result in 2 red cards, one for each of Farrell's unwrapped arms, says Justin there. Yeah, it's going to be very intriguing, but I know that one person who won't be happy if they do end up saying that it should have been a red is, of course, going to be, I'm not trying to be nice, I'm being correct, says Crumpus. I wish I had that level of confidence, to be honest. To never think that I'm wrong would make me a way better streamer, I think. Probably not, though. People would probably get pissed off with me. Example in the chat at the moment. Herschel Yankees, he almost sniped round the side. And also Jean-Luc Dupre, he did get himself the try, but the referee did not see it, which does mean could be the difference maker. It's a burden, I can imagine. You know? Sometimes you just want a quiet evening, but then you look online, you see like some random dog has tried to climb a tree, and you're like, I need to comment on that. That dog should not have been climbing that tree. And I know that because there were no mitigating circumstances that said that dog should climb that tree. I hear that you say the names. I like True Sully. Where are they playing at? Not familiar with the Barbarians, says Kerman. So they are playing in France, but they don't always play in France for the Barbarians games. It is just this example here, mainly because Samoa is still there. What is this, waffle? I always think that when I read your comments, Crumpus, sometimes. Although sometimes you have some decent-ish analysis or some decent-ish insight. I'll give you that. Other times, let's talk about Tuesday next week. You can tell us how right you were and how wrong we are. Tuesday next week, says Hensel. And chicken and waffles, mate, says Hensel. And also, who do you think will lead the All Blacks haka next year with Aaron Smith is gone? I think that they'll probably go with... Oh, it's an interesting one because they've got a few players who might lead it, but it's whether or not they actually end up playing them. I don't know whether or not they'd have Artie Savia lead it. Who else have they had lead it in the past? Dane Coles, if he's still playing, he might lead it. I think that he's done it in the past, but he's another player who's probably a little bit closer to the end of his career, so he might not be the guy that they give the chance to. Throughout this first half, it's been very even. Not a lot of line breaks, not a lot of, I guess, big hits overall. We've just seen a couple nice stock standard shots to the midsection, but yeah, the second half's going to be interesting because we've seen so many penalties, so I would assume someone's going to be going to the bin. Then from there, they'll have to go through the board and make sure that everything's all right so that they can play in the World Cup. TJ Perenara, if he is playing, yeah, he's another one that's a little bit older, I guess you could say, and please goal's gone next year. Nigel Owen's article is pretty poignant. Poignant. I like that word, Gareth. Poignant. Really gets the mouth work, and if you said that 100 times a day, your cheekbones would be popping. Poignant. Got to say it in there as well. And will Jordan lead the haka? And dogs shouldn't be climbing trees, says Fleshin. Exactly right. Owen works for World Rugby. See, now, can you see the... I literally said just before, you've said random things in the past, and he's biased, says Crumpus. But, like, I think his farm's pretty decent, isn't it? Nigel Owens. I kind of feel Owen Farrell has been punished. But the thing is, didn't the same people, like, there's so many levels in there. I kind of feel Owen Farrell has been punished enough. He must have had a terrible week for him. It's due to continue, says Yvonne. I think the biggest problem is, did the player he tackled get a concussion or an HIA or something like that? He had to come off the field anyway, didn't he? Scott Barrett to lead the haka. That would scare me. Mainly because Scott Barrett's a big boy, isn't he? Richie Moonga is still awesome in the King. Richie to lead the haka and Nigel Owens. Problem for the ABs, says Spider Mick. And also we have got the Air Vaughn. It's gotten too personal for him. We don't want that in the game either, says Gareth. He's on the bench for this week, says Yvonne. And do you think Sean Stevenson will ever lead the haka? He's got to make the ABs first, and unfortunately that seems to be something that is the harder part of the equation for Sean Stevenson, mainly because he's been right up there with a good chance of making it. If he has a good Super Rugby Pacific this year, he's got to be guaranteed the chance. Failed the first test, but passed 2 and 3 for the HIA. And good morning, Amish, says DK. Welcome in. And you have Scott Barrett, says Blues Nay. And yeah, at the moment for the All Blacks, he is definitely one of the starting locks, I would say. Second half, just around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. There are 3 games that we are covering on the channel later on tonight, one of which going to be South Africa versus Wales. That is the first game. We're starting at about 1:30 a.m. New Zealand time. Alongside that, we've got England versus Ireland. And then after that, it will be Fiji taking on France. It's quite a bit of action coming in the rugby world. After that, I think we're filming the podcast as well. If he hadn't had a great solicitor, Farrell would have got a 3-week ban. And that would have been that, says Fleshin. Oh, they're showing highlights of the Tonga Samoa game. This is actually the one that Tuala got his card, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, some highlights from the Pacific Nations Cup, a competition that we saw Samoa doing pretty decently. We need a real mongrel to lead the Kamate, says Spider Mick. I mean, that's probably why Dane Coles has had the opportunity in the past, isn't it? Mainly because that man does like a little bit of biff. Although he doesn't normally do it legally, sadly, for Dane Coles. I always say he's just one slight brain fade away from the yellow. The review panel is independent, says Crumpus and Hamish. What's your take on Owen Farrell and his consistent head hits on players, says DK. Tell you what, we cannot really talk about it too much because Crumpus will get very angry. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the outcome of it. 10 weeks for that is a joke, says Enzel. It was mitigated to 5, says Yvonne. Yeah, Samoa, they actually had a very good game up against the Tongans. And other than their game up against Fiji, they had a very good Pacific Nations Cup. And even to a certain extent, even with that loss, we're still able to find themselves a little bit of progress forward. Oh, wait, so Krampus, you're saying World Rugby is out to get Farrell? Says Gareth. And what time is the Box Wales game in South African time? I believe it will kick off at 4:15 p.m. New Zealand time. Or sorry, South African time. 4:15 p.m. So a decent hour start. I believe that the game after that starts at 6:30 p.m. South African time, and then the one after that is at 9:05 p.m. I believe. Farrell got a rich history of hitting players illegally. He does, which doesn't help his case hugely. And thanks, says Robert Wood. No worries. But yeah, we will be live on the channel covering that one. Who isn't out to get Farrell at this point, says Yvonne. We have got their stunning Huntingdonshire, says Bonnie. Eddie Jones, discuss, says Yvonne. I saw a press conference with him where he pretty much, I think he walked out because the questions, they weren't quite the best that the media had ever come up with. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because that man's been under a huge amount of pressure, right? But if he can somehow walk away with a World Cup, that's going to cause so many problems because so many people have said that he's not capable. And then if he gets that World Cup under his arm, then that's going to be really weird for those people. If Owen Farrell was Fijian or Samoan Tongan, he'd be easily banned for life, says DK. I don't know about banned for life, but he would definitely get a ban in that regard. He lost his attack coach this week, although that was due to family reasons. And I feel like until we know those family reasons, which I don't actually think they'll make public, it's very hard to say whether or not that was just like reasoning behind it or whether that is the case. But yeah, if it's family circumstances, you've got to give that the benefit of the doubt and hope that whatever it is not too serious. But you'd assume if he's given up his captaincy, or not his captaincy, sorry, his spot in the side as the coaching side of things, maybe it is relatively serious. How long till the Rugby World Cup now? It's only about 3 and a bit weeks till the next World Cup. In fact, we'll go 4 weeks, might be. No, it's less than that. It's about 3 weeks, somewhere around there. And Craig Cooper won't answer his call, says Yvonne. And what channel is the rugby showing now? At the moment, for us, it's TVNZ Plus in New Zealand. Flow Rugby is the other option of being able to watch this one. I have to say, Eddie is right. He's made the selection now. Let's get behind the team, says Flesh. And yeah, it's one of those ones that you can't really change it now that it's happened. So yeah, they've just got to go with it. If it works, people go, oh, whoops. Although the problem, I think, currently is people don't take responsibility for what they say. They just go like, nah, Eddie Jones, he's a good coach, even though they've been pretty much just saying how bad he is for the past 12 months. Wasn't long ago we could enjoy huge hits, says Krampus. Don't forget that the new tackle laws haven't been in place for long, says Krampus there, and Eddie lost, need to retire, Australia not winning. Says Criseo, although saying that there's been many coaches who have lost their first few games and then gone on to have great careers. You know, like Warren Gatlin, Steve Borthwick, they both lost their first games. They've only just recently ticked over the first win each. In fact, has England had a win? Yeah, they have. Never mind. I take that back. I was about to say has England had a win this year, but they did win for the November internationals, didn't they? Let's go to Manu. Says Fiji Islander. An Island coach came out very strongly against everyone calling out for justice. Talking about being biased and show of nepotism. Yeah, against the son of all people. Wasn't long ago. Oh no, I read that one. Eddie Jones believed that the Koalabees will win the World Cup, says Spider Meg. And that's the thing. You've got to respect that aspect of things. The fact that he backs his side that truly and that fondly. Like, you don't want a coach who's going to be like, we're struggling, we're not going to win a World Cup, but we're just here to take part. That's the last thing you want from your coach. Eddie overstated. What has he won? Nothing. Says Chris Sarah, although Dave Rennie was in that same boat, wasn't he, of not really being able to pick up too many wins for the Australians. And unfortunately for the Aussies, you know, you start to look at it historically, or you look at it from a bit longer, and is it so much the coach that could be considered the problem, or is it just the player pool that they've got hasn't quite worked the way that they want to? Fiji and France be interesting. If France goes without Roman Intermac, yeah, that's a massive loss for them. Ramos at 10. That's an idea. Bryce Doolan, I guess, would go to 15 in that regard. Or maybe, Jalibert is probably a good option that they might look at. And Wales last week, says Yvonne. And we also got the Aussies are building for 2027 just to battle or just to bottle at home, says Hensel. And now Samoa, they have made their way back out onto the field, ready to go for the second half. It's currently sitting 11-0 in favour of the Samoans. And Hamish, why do you rate the French now? Why do I rate, or how do I rate them, maybe? Given the recent injury, they've still got a very strong side. Just Roman Intermac is definitely a player they would have loved to have for that World Cup. A little bit similar to what we're seeing for a few of the other sides around the world. You know, we're losing players flat out. This weekend, 3 games are taking place that we are covering. I can guarantee you right now we're going to see at least 3 injuries, if not maybe closer to 6 for sides. So I hope that there's nothing too serious, but sadly with the physicality, it's close to being guaranteed. Come on, Samoa, yes, 11 points. Barbarian look like ballerinas. Says it was there from Roof and Bulla, Fiji Islander. Says DK, and without DuPont as well. Says Fiji Islander. And now it is going to be kicked off for the second half. The Barbarians going from left to right. They did have a try in that first half. They didn't go upstairs to check it. Now they'll be looking to try and start early with a bit of momentum. Nicely kicked downfield from Samoa towards the halfway line. Nicely taken there by Toby Fricker. Yankees Goes across inside ball 40 metres out from the line, but there's another knock on from the Barbars. This time, I believe it came from Jean-Luc Dupré. Oh, in fact, no, it was the number 1, Aki Seula, to put that one down. Didn't Farrell plead guilty in the original hearing with the Selected Pro self-mission? Says username. Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? But it's going to be interesting to see how it progresses. I feel like it's going to be one of the main talking points of the weekend, which hopefully won't be hugely talked about, but it will. Mainly because it is just the situation that is at hand. Wales, I'm feeling good about my ancestors, thinking they'll surprise box tomorrow, and Fiji versus France should be good, despite French playing their B team only. Our bossy is back, says DK. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how it does, or how he does, I should say, out on the left wing. A few changes made for Fiji alongside that as well. Now running off the back, Malani Mataval. Nice drive forward. Tackled by, I believe it was, Herschel Yankees. The 2 9s coming together. Nice work over the ball for the Barbarians. It's going to be another one. There's been a lot of penalties throughout this game. No clear release this time. And touch with no injuries all round. Just want to see good rugby in the Rugby World Cup. Says Fiji Islander, yeah. Hopefully there's nothing too serious. So far in this game, I don't think we've had any huge injuries other than Jordan Lay. I mean, he got a bit of a cut, but that is, of course, going to be able to heal in time. We saw one of the Barbarians players go off. I think that could have been Tim Nanai Williams. I haven't seen a huge amount of him since Damien Hoyland made his way onto the field. So that is probably the more concerning one for the Barbarians if it was Tim Nanai Williams who went off. Now Joseph De Weber. Right, that one in nicely taken by Jean-Luc Dupré, but then knocking the ball on again. Every time the ball is touched at the moment, someone's putting it down. Like I said, the Barbarians, they have struggled with ball control, which is something that normally isn't considered for the Barbarians, mainly because they are either going for those risky offloads, but still managing to get the payout for them. This one has just been that little bit different, it seems. Bulavanaka, Fiji Islander, says DK. Now scrum feed for Manu Samoa again. This game has been very stop-start compared to some of the other games we have seen taking place. Which is a bit of a shame. I thought that this one was going to be a little bit more free-flowing. I predicted that we'd see 30 points from one side and 20 points or so from the other. But at the moment, that is not the case. Looks like Jack Lamb might have a bit of an injury here too. So it seems to be the guys who are going up against the Samoans, the Samoan players that is, are actually the ones who are ending up getting slightly injured, which is quite concerning. But not just concerning for those players, but concerning for anyone who plays Samoa in the Rugby World Cup. Because if they're going to bring that physicality, could end up with a few players staying down. Hopefully Warren G and Wales Wales BC turn up, play G-Funk era. Says Blues Nate, and come on people, hit that like button, Kiwi lads, and Amish rock on this match. Says Ruth. Yeah, anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Our next live stream is in about 15 hours time. In fact, it might be a little bit later than that, maybe about 16, 17 hours time. And no one can say it wasn't a red for the current laws. We can argue about the laws, yes. The circus that has developed has been unfortunate, says Gareth. And yeah, it's a circus that they didn't want to have just before a Rugby World Cup, that is for sure. Looks like Jack Lamb going off for an HIA now. Right, Jack Lamb, he will be off the field, which I believe means that we will see our first Japanese player make his way onto the field. Yeah, Jack Lamb still looking a little bit wobbly on his feet. Actually, Joe Takori over with him. And Amish, how good are those Warriors title contenders? What a turnaround, thanks to Coach Webster, says DK. Yeah, they've been going very well, the Warriors. I'm worried that If I cover one of their games, they're going to lose though. So I don't know whether or not to do the playoff games or not. But we'll see. Maybe we do. That's going to be kicked downfield. Another penalty. Unfortunately, there's been no rhythm throughout this first 45 minutes. It's just penalty after penalty after penalty. Or knock-ons has been the other side of things. But it just shows that, I guess for Samoa, if you play a bit more of a scrappy game against them, that might be where they struggle a little bit. So Lema Sopawanga wanting this one to be able to kick it towards the touchline. Kia ora, Hamish. I love you, bro. Says Nazi Williams. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are having a nice Saturday morning. Plenty of rugby on today. Whether that's the Bunnings NBC, the Heartland. Oh, who's playing in the Heartland Championship? South Canterbury are playing up north. I hope their game. Oh, they might have their game up on Facebook. I'll probably watch that one. I watched them last week. South Canterbury boys. They did all right. Sorry, I just got very excited. I feel like you guys got to see my brain firsthand how it works in terms of I keep on remembering little things and then I get all hyped up about it. So the thing that's been rumoured up here, we're not that concerned about head contact due to the league influence. Says Fleshin. A nice shot coming in on Nigel Wong. Samoa in possession. Ball slapped out of the hands. Barbarians take it back. Passing around the back. There's a bit of that flair that we see from the Barbars, but it has gone into Dutch from Virimi Vakatava's pass. Coach Lamb, applause Lamb. Also opposition Lamb, also applause. Says Blues Nate. There we go. I was just looking outside. It's actually not a nice day, unfortunately, which is actually slightly ironic in a way. And the reason it's ironic is I actually got a curtain for that window. You guys will remember last week, the sun was streaming in. It was really messing with the green screen. So I decided curtain's the way to go. Now that I've got a curtain, the sun's not out, so it wouldn't have mattered that I didn't have a curtain. A roast lamb, by any chance, says Nazi Worms. Got to love a bit of lamb here in New Zealand, don't you? And bang that kangaroo. Court trio, says Yarn. And up to green and black, South Canterbury, says Blues Nate. Yeah, getting themselves a nice win over Horowhenua Kapiti in the first game. I hope that they win a few more games, though, so that they can have a home final. That would be ideal, because then we might be able to go down and give it a watch. It was my first game of rugby that I've watched live in ages. Nice run forward, Samoa with the offload, and that will be the try, I believe. And it is going to be Tamua Manu, who manages to score himself the try. That's a good start to the second half for Samoa, starting a little bit quicker, and a couple penalties in their favour. In regards to the mitigation, unfortunately, the precedent was already set when Quaka Smith pushed Peter Steftatoi into a player and a red was upheld, says Gareth. That's a very good point, Gareth. I just heard the commentator say, sheesh, which is something you don't hear every day in your eardrums. And next up is a cheer. Says, Yvonne, you're a funny dude, bro. Good positive energy all day. Says Nazi Williams. I was talking about it earlier on. I feel like this weekend is going to be a weird one in terms of streaming times. And I think I might actually almost give myself jet lag with the timings that we're going to be trying to do, because I'm going to be sleeping before South Africa versus Wales, mainly because or else then it's a really random hour and I would have been up for about 28 hours at the end of my next live stream, or the last live stream of the day. So we're going to be getting up at about maybe 12:30, 1 a.m. And then from there, going to be staying right up till night time on Sunday, because me and George, after my streams and after finishing the podcast, are going up the road. Home finals, Kiwi lads, goes live. Says Blues Nate. I mean, it would be cool to, although they'd tell me I wasn't allowed to possibly. Although something that was lacking from the South Canterbury Facebook page for their game was a commentator, so maybe could be an option. Barbars rugby commentator's been on the piss. Says Gareth, but nicely taken by Samoa just outside of their 22. Now it's starting to, it's a knock on. I was just about to say it's starting to get a little bit more free flowing now. They will go back for another scrum. Chris Vui getting the ball in the breakdown. And Samoa try, way to go, Usos. Says Spider Mick, hike the hill on go bro. Says Nazi Williams. The funny thing is, last week, how much of this can I give away? Maybe some. last week, what did we do last week? Me, George, and Daniel, we all did something. That sounds weird. But we all did something that is a part of a video that hasn't come out yet. The thing that we were doing, the thing that we were using broke. So we now have to replace it to film the rest of the video. I'm being very vague, but that's good. So there's going to be a random video coming out that's going to be hopefully one of the best videos we've done on the channel. But the problem is it might not suit the videos that we do. It's kind of sports related, but kind of not as well. Are you confused yet? And McFarland is a beast. Sheesh, says Fiji Islander. Yeah, where's George Hammy? Well, anyway, been a while since, but it has been a while since we've had him on the channel. I think the biggest thing has been he's been working Saturdays. So anytime we've had an early game on a Saturday that we've considered covering with him, he's been at work. But yeah, hopefully soon we can get him back on the channel. We've still been filming stuff. If you guys are missing George, the Kiwi Lads Entertainment channel is where you'll find him pretty much each and every week with a video coming out of us reacting to something or doing something random. So that is a good way of finding us. Explicit Hammy. In that case, what would we have broken Spider Mick? Come on, mate. Give it to us raw. Says Nazi Williamson. Let's go, Hamish. Says Blues Nate. Yeah, it's probably one of the more expensive videos that we're filming as well, which is why it's annoying that it broke, because now we've got to replace it to finish the video. Nice big scrum there. Off the back now for the Barbarians, going to the right-hand side. Virumi Vakatava finds the offload away to Henry Spate. Inside ball on Herschel Yankees. Big shot coming in. And the Barbarians score there. Technically second try of the match, but not really because that first try wasn't given. Now Yankees going to the left to Joseph Dweber. Left again. Yankees, they're just talking about the fact that we haven't seen too much in terms of the subbing department for the Barbarians compared to Samoa. That is a great counter-ruck though from the Samoans, and they do win the penalty. Iritara Enery, he has made his way onto the field. Also Chris Vui, like I mentioned a bit ago. I think that's Paul Aroamile, who's also made his way onto the field. And Latero Tolai out there as well. Ed Fidel. I'm just seeing all the numbers. Jordan Lay, or in fact, James Lay. And also, bro, my stream is like 3 to 4 minutes behind, says Fiji Islander. I'm normally the one who's a little bit more delayed, but that might be because I normally watch it on Sky, whereas this one's on TVNZ Plus, so they might be a little bit closer to live than the other one. It was a good counter-ruck there from the Teratolai. It's line out throw for him. 30 minutes remaining. Bring back the notorious G to the E to the O to the O, or to the R to the G, says Blues Nate. Nice pass. Now a big run from Ed Fidel. Offloads across to Ben Lamb, who has had a relatively quiet game compared to what some were expecting. Iritara Enery, nice sling and pass, although he has actually missed all of the runners. Now 45 metres out from the line, Samoa. Iritara Enery goes across to Paul Aroamile. Do you think Barbarians will score in the second half? I believe so. I think they've been quite unlucky to not score throughout that first half, and in a way they did manage to get themselves that try. Another run forward for Manu Samoa. Danny Tawala, short ball to the Teratolai, and that is going to be a knock-on this time against Samoa. Unfortunately, it just seems like at the moment there are too many drop balls and too many penalties going against these two sides, which makes it very hard to have that momentum flowing. Yankees decides to kick that one for the touchline. The Barbarians 10 metres out from the line now. Tolai. Ball came free, and that's something that Samoa did struggle with in the Pacific Nations Cup, was the amount of handling errors that they were having throughout the game. Just talking about the fact that Jack Lamb, he looks like he's not going to be making his way back out onto the field. Aki Seula, as he makes his way off, does go over to greet him. Now, Joseph Weber. Ball thrown in nicely. Jean-Luc Dupré fires it off the back to Weber. The two South African players linking up quite nicely for the Barbarians. Now the advantage in favour of the Barbars again. Herschel Yankees looks to the short side, goes off to Henry Spate, who runs hard at the line. Pick and go here from the Barbars. I think that's Jeffrey Tuamanga-Allen. That's the first time we've seen him with the ball in hand. Ref should let it flow sometimes. Too many penalties, says Spider-Mickey. There's been a lot throughout this game compared to some of the other ones that we have seen for the Barbarians. Now Herschel Yankees going off to the left. Are either Samoa or Tonga playing any other matches before the World Cup? So next week Samoa have got their game up against the Irish. And I believe Tonga might play someone next. Or in fact, I've played Canada twice. They played Canada on Thursday. So I think that may be all their games before the Rugby World Cup. Unless they've got one more next week as well. I'll just have a quick look. Looks like Herschel Yankees wants the quick tap here for the Barbarians. Trying to take them into deep water here. The tap's taken off to Joseph Weber. Again, two Springbok players linking up together. Stolen by Samoa. The counter-attack now. Kicking it down the middle of the field. Naria Fomai chasing after it. But he doesn't have the pace. But Ed Fidel does. And manages to get that ball here for Samoa. The Barbarians almost able to get the turnover in the breakdown, but Tara Emery kicks it in behind, looking for the cross kick. It's nicely taken by Veremi Vakatava, and now they've given the Barbarians the counter opportunity. Now Daniel Rona gets it off to Toby Fricker. This is the best that we had seen from the Barbarians throughout this game, I believe, in terms of their backline, but now they have kicked that ball away. Awkward bouncing one. Trying to keep it in the field of play, but it's gone into touch. And while Samoa 18, they're giving Barbarians a hiding, says Roof there. But yeah, Samoa, they have got Ireland in their next warm-up game of the Rugby World Cup. That will be next weekend, I believe, on the Sunday. I don't think Tonga have any others. It is just loading now. Players, quite a few still lying down on the ground. Looked like, was that Jean-Luc Dupré saying he wants subbed? He looked like he was asking for a change to be made. Tonga do not have another warm-up game, though. Their last warm-up game up against the Canadians, that was actually on Tuesday, and they did win it 36 points to 12. Colbro says Fiji Islander. And I should mention for Fiji, they have got a game next week against England at 2:15 a.m. Veremi Vakatawa getting the big round of applause as he makes his way off the field here. Nate, your neighbours can do a rap song together, says Roof Carter. I remember back in the old school days of the channel where we did let you know the Antarctica rap that we wrote for science. That was kind of like, I think that was when we got like 15 likes on a live stream. I was like, I'll do the rap. That was a wee while ago. So anyone who hasn't already, be sure to leave a like on this one, of course. We won't be doing the Antarctica rap, but it's up the sleeve for one day, perhaps. Now nicely thrown in for the Barbarians. Herschel Yankees intercepted pass from Eri Tara Eneri. And that'll be another try now for the Samoans. Here's a question, and I'm going to be Googling it because I don't want to get it wrong. When was the last time there was a game where the Barbarians were left on 0? I'm sure it would have been a little while, but we're going to look through the last few years of Barbarians rugby and find that out. So the Barbars, earlier on in the year, they played the World XV. They scored 48 points. Barbarians, in all their games in 2022, scored at least 20. 2021, games were cancelled, unfortunately. This game was actually supposed to take place in 2021. Barbarians, 2019 we're at the moment. 2018, they scored a lot of points. 14 points against England in 2017. That is currently the lowest I've been able to find for the Barbarians, and that's as far back as my app actually goes. So this is the lowest score we've seen from a Barbarian side since 2017. That's not good. Herschel Yankees, it was that intercepted pass thrown. Eri Tara Eneri was all over it. And that is not the first time that we've seen Samoa get themselves an interception. I bring back the World XV team says Obi, it would be quite cool to see the World XV get another crack. Although looking through at the lineups for those two games, they were very strong. And it was great to see a 90-point game between the two teams because of it. Lema Sopawonga gets the conversion over 25 points to 0 now in favour of Samoa. Now, I have to say, yes, the scoreline looks good for the Samoans, but we do still need to remember there's been a lot of errors from them in this game, whether that is disciplinary, they've been close to getting a yellow card a few times, and then also alongside it, they have had a lot of knock-ons. So even though the scoreline is very flattering, there's still a lot that they will want to work on as they move forward. Kick downfield into touch, 50 metres out now, Samoa with another line-out opportunity. Unfortunately, this isn't the best Barbarians team, especially in recent years. Rugby World Cup playing a major impact in their selection, says DK. Yeah. And yeah, looking through at the side, I actually mentioned about it earlier on. I've got Quade Cooper as the pitcher for this Barbarians side. And the reason behind that is, in terms of these players, hardly any of them have had Barbarians experience before. I thought Herschel Yankees got an opportunity for the Barbars a wee while ago. But, yeah, in terms of trying to find someone to have as the pitcher, it was very tricky. Joseph Dwebers just knocked the ball on. So now Samoa end up back with the ball in their hands. Eri Taraenere gets it off to the rear for May. In fact, that time it's going to be Danny Tuala breaking the line. He's got the man on his outside. Does find a nice pass on the inside for Samoa. Moving up to the 22 now. Now Rea for May this time plays halfback to Liliafano. His first touch since making his way onto the field, and the advantage in favour of the Manu Samoans. Loose ball picked up by Naria Famai. Oh, that was a big shot coming in from Dylan Richardson, who we've hardly seen in this game as well. Nice pass. No, just a little bit too far behind, and they will go back for the original penalty in favour of Samoa. I've seen a big offside from the Barbars. Deep breaths being taken at the moment, though. This game has been played at a relatively high tempo. Good evening / good morning, everyone. Says Just Carl, welcome in, mate. Hope you are having a great day at this stage. Relatively late in the day for you in South Africa. And Barbarians is a club team, so they're pretty much a team made up of international players from all around the world. So I guess in some regards you call them they're kind of an international club team, if that makes sense. We have got there Sailala. Doing really good with fine-tuning this Manu team. Says Latrell Mitchell, and what a weak Barbarians team. No answer to those powerful Samoans. And looks like Liliafano from 22 out is going to be taking on his first kick of the day. I've been slouching badly for this one. I've been leaning in, watching the action. But 60 minutes through, 25 points to 0 with still another chance. Gives a giz about AB's draw, or gives a giz about AB's draw. Is that show you the AB's draw? I think. I'm not really hip with the lingo, unfortunately, but I try. There you go. That is the All Blacks draw, although I will mention 26 or 21 days is no longer 21 days. That's 7 days away. In fact, less than 7 days now for New Zealand take on the South Africans, but also in there France, Namibia, Italy, and Uruguay as the warm-up games. So Williams ready to kick this one off. Nicely taken again by Danny Tuala, who has been busy throughout this game at number 15. Isn't there usually an uncapped international player in the Barbarians team? Says username. Normally, I think, to be honest, they didn't have the biggest talent pool to pick from probably this year, which is quite unfortunate because, of course, after that World XV game, everyone wanted to see so many players get that chance for the Barbars. That was almost a drop ball from Williams, but he does put it high now for Henry Spate to be able to chase after. Hasn't quite lined that ball up, but has ended up in the right place, right time for the bounce of the ball. And now the chance on the outside for the Barbarians. Dylan Richardson goes across, little grubber in behind here. And Dylan Richardson chasing after it. Ed Fidel does brilliantly to be able to grab that one as it was sliding towards the try line. Pool D, England, Japan, Samoa, Argentina, and Chile. Tough ball, seriously doubt Samoa will make the quarters, says DK. Please no more injuries for all teams playing tomorrow, says Just Carl. Yeah, it's going to be a shame if there are, and it does seem like there's a likeliness that we could see injuries, mainly because of the amount we have had recently. But, yeah. It's unfortunate with the amount of injuries that are coming just before a World Cup, of course. Just joined us, the boys in blue do it. They're decent on the scoreboard, 28-0, although they have still had quite a few handling errors, which I think they will want to cut down on as we move forward a little bit more. But yeah, overall, not too bad. Discipline was the other thing that was hurting them a little bit. Few penalties more than they would have liked, but yeah, they've looked solid enough in this game. Now nicely tapped across for the Barbarians. Curtis Rona this time. Had it up, nice work in the breakdown, or was it? No, he just lost his footing. So the penalty goes the way of the Barbarians. We have got there, how much money you spent on your YouTube live streaming setup for microphone and camera. Estimate you can tell. Says coding. I wouldn't actually know, to be honest, because this current microphone is a different one to what we had at the start of the streaming side of things. Mainly because the other one ended up breaking, sadly. But that does happen a little bit in terms of cables and whatnot. The webcam is probably the next thing we're going to upgrade once we do have the funds to do so, mainly because it is a relatively old one, but it doesn't look too bad at the moment, I'd say. And DK Samoa will just watch. Says Crisio and Japanese Rugby World Cup squad is richly influenced by Fijians, Kiwis, etc., says DK. And beautiful to watch the Samoans give a masterclass in rugby, says Ruth. Now, Mitch Eadie making his way off the field. 17 minutes remaining, so still time for an impact to be made by the Barbars. Joseph Weber throwing in long, slapped nicely back here. That's the big man, Corey. Now Richardson, couple meters out for the Barbarians. Their best chance of the day to cross the try line. Now across to Curtis Rona. Found his offload up. Frisch dragged down short. Big step. Is that Jean-Luc Dupre? No. Yes, it is. He's been able to get the try this time. So that would actually be his second in the game if the first had counted. ANL live stream today, says Yarnley. So we have got the games later on tonight. South African time, no. Mainly because I think it's only another couple hours, isn't it? In South Africa left of the day. But the next one that we have got, it is going to be Wales versus South Africa. I thought Barbarians would do well. They've got a solid lineup, says Sogi, although this is now their first try that they have been able to get. Jean-Luc Dupre, the South African, does cross the try line for the first time. And I mentioned about the Barbarians the last time they had a score this low in the game was actually 2017. So they need a couple more tries to get ahead of that. Beautiful to watch, says Roof, and the egg crack says Fiji, and finally says Spidermeek against England, Argentina, and Japan. Samoa will struggle, don't have the financial resources to compete, says DK. Talking about Sakamoto's carry, he has also made his way onto the field. The kick is good. I think that's actually hit the window behind at Breeve's home ground, so luckily didn't break. And now makes the score 28 points to 7. Now, there's still another 15 minutes remaining, and I don't want to say that there's no chance of a comeback. It's relatively slim, of course, but, you know, as a Barbarian side, if they can start finding a bit of a rhythm, this score could get a little bit closer. I mentioned my score prediction for this game was 33 for Samoa and about 26 for the Barbarians, so they'd need a few more tries from where they are. In fact, they'd need 3 alongside the Samoan 1, so the likeliness of that happening is quite slim. With the amount of time remaining, that ball has rolled into touch. I believe it's a knock-on from Samoa, so the Barbarians now do end up with the ball again. Samoa looking solid. One more game, Samoa, and the Irish should be good. Says Blues, nay. Yeah, that's going to be a good game, and I should mention that on the later live stream tonight, we are actually going to be showing exactly who are playing next week, because there's a few games that overlap a little bit. I know that Italy have got their game up against someone at 4:30. I think, they're playing Romania today, but next week they've got their game up against Japan at 4:30. That overlaps with Scotland versus Georgia. So I'm not too sure which game out of those two we will be doing, unless, of course, we do miss that patch so that we are fresh and ready to go for Ireland Samoa. And no chance, Emmy, 15 minutes is a long time. It is, although with the amount of stoppages we've had throughout the game, I think that is what will end up costing them rather than so much as the skill of the players out there on the field. We've just seen another scrum reset has gone down. And Barbars always entertained with their try celebrations, says Fiji Islander. Yeah, that one they were in the little sitting huddle. A bit of a clap. The thing is, they probably prepared like 6 celebrations for this game, but sadly they've only been able to use just the one at this point. Now, just talking about the fact that some of the players, you never know when you might get that call up. That is why there are players in this game, the likes of Herschel, Yankees, Joseph Weber, Jack Lamb, Tim Nenai Williams, who we really didn't see a lot of throughout this game. So I'm wondering whether or not there is an injury in that department. That's too much movement again at scrum time. And we're going to have our third reset. So already the scrum has used up maybe about 2 or 3 minutes of the 15 minutes remaining, unfortunately. If it goes down again, we'll use up even more. We have got the 3 live streams later on today, ladies and gentlemen. So anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Plenty more action coming on the Kiwi Lads channel. Talking about those pool games. Samoa, they've got some tough games. Scoreboard slow. It is. It seems to be a little bit behind. Doesn't want to give the Barbarians the points. By the the funny thing is that the clock is actually fast by about 2 or 3 minutes. But the scoring of it is slow. This time the penalty does go the way of the Barbarians. Herschel Yankees decides to take the quick tap, now firing it across to the right-hand side. Damien Hoyland in the midfield. And 30 metres out from the line. Space is starting to open up though in the Samoan defence. Yankees again goes across to the right. Fricker has dropped that ball, but they have said it's gone backwards. Big shot coming in on Yankees again. New halfback has to play. Now Jean-Luc Dupré. This has been a step-up performance from Jean-Luc Dupré. I feel like this is the type of game that they'll look at if South Africa do need that replacement. Great kick in behind from Samoa though. And now Spate, has he done something to his leg? Not quite. Yeah, nice kick downfield from the Barbarians. Samoa now have got themselves the line out. Henry Spade just talking about the fact that he was very close to get in that one. Now, line out throw. There was no one back there for Samoa though. That's why it was so confusing that they had left so much open space for that man to run into. There are a few other international games taking place tonight as well that I should mention that we won't be covering on the channel, but we will be keeping you informed of what is happening during. Georgia versus USA is one that we won't be covering on the channel with the overlap, and then also Italy versus Romania, the other game that overlaps, unfortunately. Right, Herschel Yankees making his way off the field. Also the change for Andre Hugo Fenta, so one South African for another in the front row. Max Green. Man who replaces Herschel Yankees. Samoa with this line out throw. It will be Latero Tulai. Normally plays in the Bunnings NPC. A few games of the Bunnings NPC on today as well, I should mention. There's plenty of rugby, that is for sure. There's the Farah Palmer Cup, Bunnings NPC. There's actually a Ranfurly Shield Challenge in 5 hours 45 minutes time between Wellington and Southland. The Heartland Championship taking place with King's Country taking on South Canterbury. That is up north, but hopefully I will be able to watch that game. Now, nicely taken. It was actually real weird, though, watching South Canterbury versus Horowhenua Kapiti last week, because I'm so used to being impartial, but it was a home game for South Canterbury, and I felt like I should be supporting them more than I was. But I'm just that used to being straight down the middle. My boy's a hooker. He loves a reset when he knows they're on top, says Fleshin. What time is Georgia playing? Your time, says Fiji. So it is 3 a.m. New Zealand time up against the USA. So quite an early morning game, but that is during the same time as South Africa versus Wales. Samoa already beat Japan. Japan only relevant due to foreign players. Says Chuck T. And Hamish should be the commentator for South Canterbury. Says Blues name. Although there's a few pretty tricky names on the South Canterbury side, I'll be honest. We're probably a little bit like Japan, to be honest, with our local team. Now being thrown in, nicely taken. To the right now, legs taken out from underneath of the Samoan player. I think Ben Lamb's done his knee here by the looks of that. Eritara Enery. Tell you what, if they've lost Tim Nanai Williams, Jack Lamb and Ben Lamb all in this game, you wonder whether or not Samoa would say the game was worth it. Now Eritara Enery going across again. The worst thing is there's been 2 players playing for the Barbarians of the Samoan players that have been injured. Now short ball to James Lay, 25 metres out from the line. Another pick and go there from, I think it was Alamana Matunga this time having the crack. Ed Fidel decides to go with the pick and go as well. Ball pops out the side. And now it's back in the hands of the Barbarians. Frick goes across. Then behind. A little bit of a mistake from Christian Leleofano, but has managed to regather. Now it goes across to Danny Tawala. Naria Famai with the chip and chase. That looked like a line change from Dylan Richardson. Although they've set play on now. Henry Spate down the wing. He is hit hard by Naria Famai. Ball's loose. Leleofano cleans it up. Now charging forward towards the 22. Kicked in behind by Tawala. And now Barbarians have the line out. This game has started heating up in terms of the speed that has been played at in this last little while. So, we have got the thumbs up from Fiji Islander there too, but they're checking out Ben Lamb's left knee. It looked relatively serious with the way that he fell. He's got the Sefa Takori has gone over to check on him. Giving him the pat on the head. That one. But final 10 minutes. So the question to the chat. Are we going to see another try? And if so, how many? Do we see 2 more tries in the last 10 minutes? I think with the speed that this game's been played, the gaps are starting to open up quite a bit. I believe also Ben Lamb must be back to his feet as he is getting a bit of a round of applause there. Unless, of course, that is him making his way off the field. Yeah, unfortunately, he's making his way off the field, gets the high five from Henry Spate. But that is a massive loss for Samoa. On debut for Ben Lamb, they're just going to show it here. He was charging at the line and just ends up going straight into Sakamoto to get him just above the knee, and it's just jolted him back in a real awkward manner for Ben Lamb, unfortunately. Game will continue. 10 minutes remaining. Barbarians with the line-out throw. Nicely taken by Reniel Hihu. Off to the right now. It's going to be a runner on the inside. He has had a few runs throughout this game, but maybe not quite as prominent as people would have liked to see. Inside ball there from the Barbars. Knock on from Damien Hoyland, and it goes back now to Samoa. Now back across. The right-hand side, kicked in behind here. Looking to drift towards the touchline. Barbars taking it just inside of their 22 for Amalosi Uso Manu Samoa. Says Melu there. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing well. Richardson knocks it on. And they'll go back for the scrum. Tell you what, Takori would have been a big man to have running through that gap. Would have been danger time for Danny Tawala standing in at fullback. Now, 8.5 minutes remaining. The clock's slowly starting to get away from the Barbarians here. Nice run, though, from Williams. And Richardson just getting the fingertip to it. Stephen Luatua, I hope he's not injured. He was kind of leaning one way, hopefully just stretching, rather than anything, any more serious for him. Ireland, they are going to be taking on the Samoans next week. That is at 6:30 a.m. New Zealand time, so that'll be a 7:30 a.m. start for the viewers in Samoa, and for the South African viewers, it will be at 8:30 p.m. South African time for that contest. Eritara Enery about to feed the ball in for the Samoans here. Now the ball has popped out the back. Penalty goes the way of Samoa. Looks like Eritara Enery considered taking that one quickly. Will decide against it in the end here. And instead, it looks like Christian Leleofano going to be looking for the touchline. This will slow down the game a little bit more for Samoa. Re-get their bearings. And let's hope it's just a precautionary call, taking Lamb off and nothing more serious, says Fiji Islander. And yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to those knees, like, all it takes is to get it jolted slightly the wrong way, and then that can be ACL, MCL, any of those ones. Meniscus could be playing up a little bit, but yeah, hopefully nothing too serious for Ben Lamb. Maybe just a bit of a jolt to the kneecap. Hopefully we'll be all right. The Pacific Nations just need more test matches, says Chuck T. And I feel like the Pacific Nations Cup was quite nice for them, mainly because it did give a few more opportunities to Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, and also Japan to get a bit more game time. People were talking about Fiji and Japan joining the Rugby Championship, but I think for now I would much prefer the Pacific Nations Cup because that means that Samoa and Tonga also get that opportunity to play more rugby. Wrestle down there. Now off to the right-hand side for the Barbars. Let's run forward from Adamson. In fact, sorry, that was Williams. We had that run. Chris Vui manages to take it quite nicely. Damien Hoyland chasing after him, but Vui breaks through that tackle. Eritara Enery now off to the left to Tualu, was at first receiving the rear for Mai. He's knocked it on again. And that now means we've got another scrum feed, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a lot of scrums throughout this game, probably more than we were expecting to see, but still had a few quick little breaks. At the moment, Bayern, they are playing to lose in the top 14, and they are winning 21 points to 7. Anyone who was curious about that game, so a great start to the top 14 for them. A few games taking place in the Bunnings NBC today. Total of 4. North Harbour taking on Auckland at 2:05. Wellington taking on Southland for the Ranfurly Shield, also taking place at that 2:05 mark. Canterbury versus Manawatu at 4:35, and then Northland versus Tasman at 7:05. So plenty of action coming up in the world of rugby. And that's not even involving the international games that are taking place later on. New Zealand time. First one taking place in about 18 hours time. Now, off to the left-hand side here for the Barbarians. Frisch finds the ball out to Fricker. Now to the right, Jean-Luc Dupré tackled nicely. I believe that would have been Alamana Matunga. He has had quite a tough game so far. Nice backline opening up now. Curtis Rona gets a pass on the outside to Henry Spate, looking for the corner, but does get dragged down 10 metres out from the try line. Now loose ball sits up nicely there for the Barbars. Having to offload it through his legs with Andre Hugo Fenta. The big man Stephen Longwell, he's knocked down. Now Williams decides to run straight towards the try line. Stephen Luatua. Now to Corey. Another good low tackle on him. And you have to go low because or else then you get him probably knocked out by one of the elbows of that man because he is absolutely huge. 5 metres out from the line. Wide cut out pass to Henry Spade. It will be the second try of the match for the Barbarians. It's over, Samoa the Conquered, says Spider-Michael. Though another last minute try coming from the Barbars in this game. They haven't given up, which is great to see. Samoa may be slowing down a little bit towards the end of this game. It has been played at a high tempo, like I mentioned. Now 4 minutes remaining. Still time for maybe one more try. It was a great cutout pass from Max Green. Get it out to Henry Spate. Still on 75th minute, says Fiji Islander. Yeah, so it's still a little bit of time remaining, although I don't see 2 tries being scored in the last 3.5 minutes. We might see one more try, though. Could be a possibility. Now lining up this kick quite close to the touchline for Williams. I should mention that is Jordan Williams. Quite a few Williams in World Rugby at the moment. The best option is they allowed Tonga and Samoa to have their own Super Rugby teams. Fiji benefited greatly with the draw. That kick is going to be successful. Although I think for now, Moana Pacifica, I think they will stick with them just for now, mainly because some would argue, and I don't know whether or not this will be the case going forward, but some would argue that Fiji have a deeper player pool available than Samoa and Tonga do. So for that reason, they combine them as the Moana Pacifica side. So once Moana Pacifica start finding their rhythm in Super Rugby, that may actually be when they consider extending the comp again, maybe making it back to 14 teams, making it like the old days. But yeah, for now, I think they'll just stick with the one Moana Pacifica side, and then when that starts taking off that little bit more, that might be when they start to give another team the opportunity. But then I guess in some regards, like if you've got Samoa and Tonga as their two sides, where do the Cook Islands players go? Because I know that they've got a couple of them in Moana Pacifica side, I think. So maybe they go to Tonga or they go to Samoa's team, perhaps. Now back across again to the right-hand side, the Barbarians with 1 minute 40 on the clock. Henry Spate will end up with the ball once more. This time 35 metres out from the line. Ball pops free. Nicely cleaned up there by Toby Fricker. Although counter-ruck there from Samoa, just not quite successful in the end. Back across here, Max Green goes into the hands of Andre Hugo Fenta. And that will be the penalty now for Samoa. Only 1 minute remaining. They're talking about the fact that Samoa, if they take the kick here, that will close out this game. So it might be a good option. Don't want to risk any more injuries throughout the final minute of this contest. Cook Islands players go to party and drink, says Nuzzy Williams. Yeah, they will take on the kick. Crowd, I think I heard a couple boos there. They aren't too happy about the fact that they are going to be kicking for the posts. And champions, says Nuzzy Williams. I have to say, the discipline of the Barbarians hasn't been flash. Liliafano, 20 seconds remaining. They're saying it could be the last play. The kick is wide. And I believe that will be the end of the game. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, ending with the misconversion attempt from Christian Liliafano, but the Samoans, they will walk away with the victory here. 28 points to 7 over the Barbarians in the first game of the season for the Barbars. There is certainly stuff that they can work on before their next contest, which I believe will be up against the Northampton Saints in early September. Move Your Mouse says, Joe, unfortunately, it is actually in the right place. The scoreboard just stopped updating at 76 minutes, which is weird because I think it's normally the slightly international games that they don't update as frequently, which is a little bit annoying, of course. Well, we didn't see a scoreless Barbarian side says username. That is true, although the lowest amount... Wait, did that kick go over? It's still not updated, is it? In terms of the Barbarians. And great commentating. Keep up the good work, bro, says Chuck T. Thank you very much. And yeah, we've got plenty more commentary later on tonight. South Africa versus Wales will be taking place. We will be covering that on the channel alongside England versus Ireland and also Fiji when they do take on the French. That will be a 7:05 a.m. kickoff on Sunday morning New Zealand time. So be sure to check that out as well. Osefo said sorry. What are you apologising for, Osefo? But most valuable player is Tamua Manu. There we go, it has updated now. So they have tied with the amount of points that they did get back in the day in 2017. It hasn't been the most effective Barbarian side we have seen in past years, but they've still got their games up against the Saints, up against the Bristol Bears as another one that will be taking place. nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in to this live stream. We will have a review of the match coming out on the channel in a very short moment, so be sure to check that out as well. Yeah, thank you all very much for being here. The next live stream that we have got is Wales taking on South Africa. That will be starting at around 1:30 a.m. New Zealand time or 3:30 p.m. South African. Thanks, Zach, for the commentary. Says username, no worries at all. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.